Our speaker is one of my very favorite people. He hasn't been back to Launchpad for quite a while, but he used to speak quite regularly here, and he wrote a book called, what is it even called, Star something, the Star Career Workbook. And I tried, when I worked for the state, I tried as hard as I could to get them to buy that book for all of the job search skill classes, which would have been a chunk of change in Dan's pocket and a great big feather in my cap. And the state wouldn't go for it, much to their loss, I think, because it's a really, really good job search book. But I bought a bunch of them, and I'm going to be giving them out as door prizes next week. So there you go. So Dan Medlin is a global talent acquisition partner. And his topic is going to be something that everybody is going to be using in the very near future, how to negotiate and close the deal, because that's what you're all going to be doing when you get hired. He is a senior talent acquisition leader with over 30 years of professional experience, a master's degree in counseling and career guidance, and experience building and managing recruitment programs in companies ranging from 75 to 300,000 employees, with global teams from 3 to 30. He has updated the STAR Career Workbook in 2019. This is a cost-effective alternative to expensive outplacement and job search assistance programs. The STAR Career Workbook is available on Amazon, but let's see if you can get a free one first. All right, let's give a very huge round of applause and welcome to Dan Medlin. Oh, another wall.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Fine? Okay. John, I need your resume when we're done, please. Any other .NET developers in the room? C#.NET? Okay, good. Please talk to me later. I've got a job for you there. In fact, I'll knock that out real quick. The two primary jobs that I was going to mention that I'm recruiting on, kind of multi-dimensional portfolio of companies that I'm working for right now. But I'm recruiting for Star HR, which is my business, and I've got a C#.NET software engineer role open for that company, so you guys can get me your resumes or get my card. Also, I'm working with Proactive Talent, which is a talent acquisition consulting company here in the Austin area, and we work globally with clients around the world that are kind of in fast growth mode, and they need our assistance to build a recruitment program. And we're looking for a business development representative, a sales assistant, and so it could be kind of a interim role for you to kind of get started, get back into sales if you're good with sales, and if you're good at selling services. Obviously, that's what we're offering here. So if you're a services sales professional, talk to me about that business development representative role. Okay, so the presentation is up. Graphics not loaded. Yeah. Okay, looks like the graphics didn't load with this, so you won't see my fancy picture and some of the other fun stuff, but the content is really what's important for you here. So just a little bit more about me. It's really important that I lead in with this, especially on Easter weekend. First and foremost, I'm a child of God, and that is critical to me, and it's fundamental to my value set. And when you start talking with employers about what your core values are, what you believe, and the kind of company that you want to work for, you've got to have that rock solid foundation, and that's mine. I'm also a husband and father of 5. And if you know the Bible, 5 is a quiver, so my quiver is full. And I've told my wife that, no more, because we adopted 2, and she'd probably love to have some more. And that's why we're going to talk later about foster and adoption services in Central Texas, because we're very well connected in the network. And then I am a former athlete, if you couldn't tell. Shannon so gracefully said, "Have you lost weight? You look really trim and fit." I fasted at the beginning of this year and lost like 15 pounds in about 2 weeks. That's crazy. Shannon found my 15 pounds. And it's important to me that you know that my educational background is in counseling and career guidance. So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and master's in counseling. So I came into this field intentionally, but circumventally, right? And so some of you have kind of taken turns on your path, and that's okay, right? We have seasons in our life, and God kind of orchestrates for us where He wants to go, and He opens doors and closes others. And I was working in higher education administration, got my LPC certification, and I was going to be a full-time psychologist and therapist. And then, those doors just shut, and the opportunity opened up for me to move into human resources and recruiting. And thank the Lord, because I love what I do. I am passionate about it. Very passionate about helping great people match to great companies, helping great companies find great talent. So I'm not going to say that is who I am, because the first and foremost thing is who I am as a child of God, but I love doing this, and I never want to stop, ever. I have no retirement date. I have a retirement fund, but I have no retirement date. All right. We mentioned the Star Career Workbook, but there are copies of it right up front here. I always bring just a handful of copies because really it's online. Here's a short link to the Amazon page where you can find the book. The Star Career Workbook, updated in January 2019. Listen, there's really 2 really critical components and differentiators in this workbook that if you feel like would be very helpful to you, grab it, get a copy of it. And one is that I teach you the systematic process of uncovering hidden job opportunities and networking your way into your next career move. I don't teach you, although I give you some tips and suggestions how to manage the process, how to throw your resume at thousands of job postings. I feel like, for the most part, that's not a total waste of time, but it's not the most valuable use of your time. And so I teach you the process of networking into your next career move. So that's one key differentiator in my workbook. And the other is that I teach you the psychological qualities that every company is looking for and how to shape your profile, your persona, into those kinds of qualities, leveraging your strengths, leveraging your core values, but being what your next employer is looking for. Okay? I know that sounds like, well, how do you do all of that? Because we're all very different people. Yes, you are, and you're going to learn about that if you work through the workbook. The third and final thing I would say about it is that it is a workbook. It's not a read, okay? Get your pencil out. You're going to do a lot of work in this workbook. And it'll take you a couple of months probably to get through every bit of it. That doesn't mean your search stops. It continues on. You'll learn as you go, and you'll start taking some of these tools, putting them into your tool belt and using them. So I'm going to give you some of those tools today in negotiating and closing on your dream job. So the salary question is going to be the first thing that we're going to tackle because it's the toughest one. And you've already been facing it now. Recruiters have called you on the phone and said, so what you looking for? Right? And you were caught off guard. You weren't ready for that question yet. We're going to get you ready for that question. The next thing is closing on your dream job. Salespeople in the room? Sales? ABC? ABC. All right, we're going to talk about ABC. We're going to talk about what that means to you as a job seeker, and I'm going to give you some really good techniques, some really good tricks. There's even more in the workbook, but I can't give you everything today. But there's some really good negotiating strategies. And in the Star Hiring book, which is the other book that I wrote for recruiting managers, TA managers, hiring managers, and business owners, Star Hiring, how to hire great talent, I actually give away a lot of secrets of the negotiating techniques that we use when we're negotiating offers with candidates. So, you can kind of come around on the back end of that and read some of that material. This is what you're quote unquote up against, what we do in HR when we're negotiating deals with candidates. But I'm going to teach you how to negotiate your deal. A lot of that begins with knowledge and goes through some of the different process that you need to follow. So that's our agenda for the day. Is there anything that I'm missing that you'd like to hear about other than these 3 key topics in negotiating and closing on your dream job? Anything else that you'd like to hear? Yes?
Are you going to talk about like how much opportunity do you have to negotiate? Like from a recruiter's perspective, are they going to think, oh, well, there wasn't much difference between my number 1 choice and my number 2 choice. Number 1 gives me too much trouble, I'm just going to go and make the offer to number 2.
Right. Yes. We're going to talk about that. Yes. And if I don't cover it sufficiently, you make sure that I bring it back up again. Because some of it's kind of subjective and it's more of a conversation. But yes, go ahead.
I feel this is sometimes baloney where when they throw well, you live in B geography and the jobs and, and I just got this. Well, that range that you're asking for is for the Bay Area. And you live in Boston. And that's not the same. And I'm just like, well, wait a second. I'm asking for what I believe I feel I should be paid for this job.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about how you position that and how you sell that, right? I have no guarantee that they're going to change their opinion or their mind, but I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to be confident. And some deals you have to walk away from, right? Okay. All right. Any last thing? We can bring that back up when we get there as well. Most of your questions are toward that tail end of this presentation. I'm going to have a big Q&A at the end, and we can go way off topic, okay? So I'll probably be moving at a fairly quick pace, snap pictures of the screens as you like, anything that you want here, because I've got some tools, some graphs, some charts. I hope they show up. We'll see. Okay. The salary question often begins, hopefully, if the recruiters were trained appropriately, they ask the question the first time they get you on the phone. And I heard over here, I never answer it, right? Or I try not to, right? And that's generally my advice, and I still stand on that, right, from the beginning. The problem is that, a good recruiter is going to be persistent, right? And you've got to be prepared for that assistance. So my advice is a 4-step plan. First, you try to avoid. You try to say, seems like it's a little bit early in the process right now. Haven't really fully scoped out the role. You don't know if you love me. I don't know if I love the job. Can we postpone that conversation? All right? Some recruiters will say, sure, no problem. Okay, but I'm going to need to bring it back up because we've got to make sure that you're in the range before we move too far forward. So then you can say, at that point, you can say, okay, and then move the conversation on, or you can grab the one thing that recruiter just said. And what was that? In the range. And you say, oh, well, what's the range? Okay, so get a range if you can, and then your response to that typically is, I can work with that. That's in the ballpark. okay? You typically don't try to eliminate yourself at all because they are trying to eliminate you at this point, right? They got 30, 40, 50 candidates that they're screening, maybe more. They need to identify who's the best fit for their opportunity. So, 4-step plan, makes sense? Okay? Be prepared with a range if they press you and they say, I'm not going to be able to move you forward if I don't have some kind of numbers from you. So how do you do that? Build your range. You need to do your research. If you haven't done it already, make sure you do. Okay, I'll move out of the way so you can snap pictures. You handy little tool. It's also in the workbook. You can build it yourself. You don't need an Excel spreadsheet. You can do it on paper, but you could drop it into Excel. I do. I have multiple different Excel worksheets that I run around with. I go to some of the more general sites, use the free data that's out there, payscale.com, indeed.com/salary. Pretty easy to use. You can grab some data that's out there on salaries. But listen, payscale.com is probably a better source of data. It's a little richer of data. They scrub that data. Indeed does not scrub the data. It's just kind of all in there. And it's a bit fuzzy, like, well, how did we get this number? Are we guessing at this? We'll not have been 100% sure. And so that's why I say get multiple sources of data. And then also check around with some other professionals in the field. If you're staying in your same field and you know what you were making before, and that was a fair and reasonable compensation structure, well, then that's at least one of your baselines as you're marketing this. But just because you were making X before doesn't mean you need to make X going forward. Could be more, hopefully it is. Might have to be less, hopefully it's not. Then you're going to just get a minimum, a mid, and a max. Do your averages. Now, is this your salary range, mid, minimum to max? Is that what you're going to tell a recruiter? No. Why not? Why not? But I mean, I did the data. Okay, right, exactly. So now decide on what you're going to tell recruiters, right? And so there are a few different considerations, all subjective for you. Where am I at financially? Are the kids out of the house? Do I need as much income as I had before? Have I paid off my mortgage? Have I taken on a lot of debt and I need to increase my compensation? Have we decided that my spouse wants to stay at home and so I'm going to carry the weight? I got to get a little bit bigger of a paycheck going forward. Whatever those things are, consider what your needs are and build that into your baseline of acceptable salary. So your true lowest acceptable salary, or your true, and actually what I say is that your true lowest acceptable salary is not the minimum here, but the mid here, right? I don't even want to talk about what the market says the minimum is. I want to be somewhere in that mid. So I might say that my true minimum acceptable salary is the mid of the research that I've done, and then I build in a 10% negotiating buffer. So I'm going to add on about 10% to that figure, and that's what I'm going to tell recruiters going forward, that my lowest acceptable salary is X. Does that make sense? Okay? It's almost too simple, and so I just have to double check that that makes sense to you. Then I typically want to add another 10K to that, or I go back to my range and I look at what the market data is telling me to give them the top of my range. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay? Questions?
For sales, it's so much more complicated because the ranges are crazy, even within a role in a single organization.
Right. And for sales, what I typically recommend is that you don't talk about base salary at all. You just say, my OTE is. My on-target earnings need to be 300K. My on-target earnings need to be 250.
And even then, you risk looking like a fool because I had researched a company that I interviewed recently, and I was just going to go to the interview for the practice because the like salary.com, Indeed.com, Glassdoor showed it would have really low compensation for account executives. And she quoted a range, and I didn't want her see me going, wow, but that's pretty much my reaction. So I could have totally blown it, and fortunately I didn't, but.
Her range was too low,
No, her range was substantially higher.
Substantially higher. and she's probably making stuff up.
Seriously, why would she make stuff up? I mean, she has to honor it later or be in the range.
I don't know.
Okay.
Green recruiter, maybe. I don't know. Yes.
So, do you recommend to change the rates depending on the position? Or sometimes
Yes.
I am offered like a more senior individual.
That's right. Depending on the role that you're interviewing for, you may have a variety of different ranges that you might give a recruiter, right? It depends on the role that you're interviewing for. If I'm going after a management role, my stated range is going to be different from an individual contributor role.
When you ask the recruiters for the budget associated to the role, can be honest?
Are they honest? They're doing the same thing you're doing. They're building in a negotiating buffer. That's why you're building in a negotiating buffer. Okay. Yes.
Are you going to cover what you say if they ask you what you made of your prior job?
So that's becoming more and more less legal.
But in Texas, it's still.
It's still legal, but more and more companies are not doing that today. And so my first response to the question of, so what did you make in your previous position is, I'd rather keep that confidential. I'd rather not discuss that if we don't need to. I'm really looking forward into my next opportunity. So I'm giving you the range that I'm looking for. Can we leave it at that? Right? That's my first advice, right? If they really press you and really push you, I might even push back and say, I'm a little concerned that you're pushing for data that's becoming less and less legal to talk about around the country. Is this the kind of company that I would want to work for? Right? Yeah. We know my HR colleague here. Yes.
The information that you get off the payscale.com, Indeed, salary, what have you, how current is that? And the reason I ask is because my profession is saturated, it's actually oversaturated in the Austin area, so salaries are trending down. So like right now, I have a little tiny part-time job, I'm making 2008 wages.
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate, pretty current. Payscale.com and Indeed. But again, multiple sources of data is going to be better for you. The oldest set of data is going to be the actual the Bureau of Labor. The federal government is going to be the oldest data. Yeah. Yes.
Could I'm on the timeline, I hate to interrupt this way, but can we kind of get through your presentation and ask questions afterwards? Would that be- Oh, is that it?
ABC. Closing techniques. We're going to move into this. Is that okay? And then we'll do Q&A at the end. Okay? So the closing mentality, or closing is a mindset, all right, is the point that I'm trying to make here. Always be closing is what we learn in sales. It's true for sales. It's true for the job search. The way to have that mindset is that you know what you're after. You know what your goals are. And every stage in the job search process, there is a goal. There's something more that you're trying to get. It's not always about getting an offer today. The next stage may just be getting the next decision maker to meet with me. The next stage may be just, can we schedule the face-to-face interview? Could we schedule the phone screen? You indicated that I was going to be meeting with the hiring manager. Why don't we go ahead and set that up? I'm available on Tuesday at 10 or Thursday at 3. Which works for them? Right? So the closing mentality is a mindset. You're always in it, and it starts with knowing your goals. You'll achieve none of those goals if you don't ask for them. So the power is in the question. You can use a lot of these different varieties of questions as you're moving through the process and as you're asking to be moved forward in the next step. So I give you some examples. One of the key questions that you typically want to ask is, how am I doing? Where do I stand? Am I your number one candidate? When you're ready to bring on your new team member, how will you decide who's number one? How well have I done in presenting myself as your potential number one candidate? It's a tough question, right? Hiring managers and or recruiters don't always want to answer that question, but you will be bold if you will ask that question. The power is in the question. Ask for the next step. Pretty simple. And then the other pre-closing technique that I want to teach you is putting yourself in the chair. Putting yourself in the chair. You want the recruiter, the hiring manager, the employer visualizing you working for them in that role. How do you do that? Very creatively. In my first 30 days on the job, what are the most pressing challenges I will need to address? I've made a pretty big assumption there, haven't I? I've got this job. It's mine. In my first 30 days, what do you need me to tackle? Right? How many of y'all have used this? Okay, good, fantastic. Keep using it over and over again. What can you tell me about the team I'll be working with? Love that one, right? I'm all about team. I want to collaborate. Who are the people I'll be collaborating with? I really like what I'm hearing. I can't wait to get started. Can't wait to get started. I'm assuming you're going to make me an offer, so let's just schedule the start date. Right? So pre-closing techniques, they start to visualize you in the role, right? How many of these can you use in a typical conversation? Like the owl who licked the Tootsie Roll lollipop? 3. It's always the magic number. I really wouldn't overdo this, right? 2 or 3 of these in any conversation. Otherwise, you're overdoing it, right? And so pick what you like. And listen, this recruiter over here may have heard it from you, but this one over here hasn't. You can use these again and again, okay? All right, pre-closing and then closing techniques. So as you're asking to be moved forward in the next process, in the next stage, there are some different techniques that you can use, such as the choice between 2 positives. Sales folks in the room use this all the time. I can set you up for Tuesday at 10 or Thursday at 3, which works better for you. It's the choice between 2 positives. They're your positives. You want that meeting. Here's my availability. Let's get it on the schedule. And then thirdly, the last bit is asking for the job. You won't get what you don't ask for, or you might not get what you don't ask for. You can sit around and wait for them to think about an offer, or you can press forward. I believe that the interview's been fantastic. You've given me indications that I'm your number one candidate. Why don't we go ahead and begin to negotiate? I'm ready when you are. Can we look at the calendar and set a start date? Okay. In fact, as I mentioned the 2 or 3 different, couple of bullet points here as as closing techniques in asking for the job, one of the things that you notice is that I didn't add a bullet point of asking necessarily to negotiate. I didn't have a bullet point of saying, so what kind of salary would you be offering me, right? Because I'm assuming, the hidden assumption is that you're going to make me an offer and that you're going to make me a good offer. And I'm going to keep that assumption as the foundation under what I'm asking. And for me, it's all about, I'm ready to get started. I love what I'm hearing here. I could start April 1st. Let's go. Right? Because guess what? The negotiation is going to happen. It's going to have to happen. And they're going to either put an offer down on the table in written form, or they're going to start talking to you verbally about the details of the offer. So are you ready for it? Are you ready to negotiate your deal? Well, let's talk a little bit about that, negotiating your deal. Effective negotiating begins with knowledge, right? Now, so there's the data that we've already started preparing, the market ranges, the salaries that you'd be looking for, the comparisons. In sales roles, understanding what their quota system is, understanding what their commission structure looks like, understanding what their targets are for your on-target earnings, understanding what I'm selling and the value of those things that I'm selling, okay? In engineering, software engineers in the room, project managers, other folks that work in high-tech Austin, okay? Understanding the value of what we're making, understanding the value of the service that we're delivering, and what customers pay for that product or service helps you understand the potential value of the role that you are interviewing for. What's my piece in this puzzle? Understanding the revenue projections of the company that you're interviewing for and the number of employees that work in that company. If I do a little bit of reverse math, if I divide the number of employees into the revenue projections for the company, I have what?
The amount of revenue associated
Per employee. That's what I'm expected to potentially bring as an employee of this company. So how does that impact my value when you're coming to the table with an offer, right? Okay.
What multiple would you use on that if you're in sales? Because that's probably, you're going to have to bring in.
I do have some math on that. It's not on the top of my head right at this moment. I'm sorry that I didn't put it in here. It's something that I blogged about here recently, but I'll get you that data. Lou Adler actually, he wrote this. He takes the credit for it, but he did some math where you can kind of back into and he was talking about it from the employer's standpoint. How do you put a value on each employee? And then if you're going after top talent, what should you expect the value of each employee to be for top talent? You position yourself as a top talent, so you're going to assume I'm going to bring that 25% extra that a star employee would bring to you, and so that's the value that I would bring to you. So Lou Adler has an article on it way back to 1990. I plagiarized a bit of that and worked out the formula and represented it in a recent blog. Research the appropriate salary ranges, benefits, perks, the work environment. Understand what the company is offering to you as far as flexibility, working from home options, reimbursement programs, educational assistance. All of that data helps you to be better informed on what you are going to be negotiating for in your offer package. The other thing that you're looking at is the company's pain. What's going on right now at the company? What are they struggling with? What problems are you coming in to solve for this company? Engineers in the room, we love to ask, what problem do you need me to solve, right? And we're thinking about it from, I'm not an engineer, but I act like one on TV. We're thinking about a mathematical problem, an equation, right? And those of us on the social sciences side think when you say problem, we go, oh, well, no, we don't have any problems. We're fine. We're healthy, happy people, right? No, there's always a math problem to solve. There's always an engineering problem to solve, right?
I'll give you a really quick example. I was in an interview with the CTO yesterday, a product manager, and he asked me about how I would deal with problems that don't affect the customer. You know, needs that the technical team has, like technical debt, that they can never get done because the product managers are always saying, no, that's not important. So I said, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be the new guy, the naive guy that pushes this forward and gets it done for you because I understand that problem and it affects people even if it's not something that's tied, you know, to a salesperson.
And he gave you a golden nugget that you're going to put in your pocket for when you get to the offer negotiation. He just told you they have those problems. They don't ask you for your ideas on how to solve a problem that they don't have. Okay? And so you keep track of those all through the interview process, from recruiter to hiring manager to company owner, as you meet with those folks and they tell you, when they start asking you questions about, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Guess what? They're going to be asking you to do that. They're going to be asking you to solve those problems. But then you can also ask, you know, what are the challenges that you're facing right now? When you've asked that question, what are the things that I need to tackle in my first 30 days on the job? Now they've told you, this is how hard it's going to be, and these are the big problems, these are the big stones that we need you to move. That makes an impact on how you negotiate your salary. And we'll talk about what that looks like. So as you start talking about numbers, or when the company is ready to start talking about numbers, they're ready to start crafting an offer for you. You need to make that assumption. And so at this stage, you may even say, sounds like you're ready to make me an offer. If at this stage you're asking me, okay, we're ready, great interview, we need to have the compensation conversation one more time and clarify what you're looking for, then your next question is, sounds like you're ready to make me an offer. Fantastic. I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to negotiate with you. Earnestly try to get them to tell you their range again if they haven't revealed that data to you yet. Try to get some data from them on what their acceptable range is. It's typically safe if you're somewhere inside their range. Shoot as high as you need to accommodate your budget, your lifestyle, etc. And then work on closing toward that number. So based on what I've heard from you, the range that you've given me, the value that I've communicated to you that I bring, I believe a fair offer is going to be X. And then you stay silent. Right? Why? Why? Why do you stay silent?
The first person who likes loses.
That's one way to put it. You'll be tempted. Oh, you'll be tempted. You'll be tempted to say, but I'm flexible. You'll be tempted to say, but I understand if you've got some other candidates to interview, you may want to shop around a little bit. You'll be tempted to say a lot of things at that point. The best thing to do is to stay silent. Hold on to that number. Let them speak next. Let them say, well, that's a little high in the range. Oh, so it is in the range. Well, yes, it's okay. Fantastic. So I'm your number one candidate. You're ready to move forward. You'd like to get this role filled. I'd like to get started. Why don't we just make that happen? Right. Okay, so then they say, well, we're not quite comfortable getting to that number. Right? You've got a couple of choices to make. You could say, well, what do you have in mind? Right? They put maybe a range on the table. They maybe put a figure on the table. Is that going to be acceptable to you? Can you work with that? Maybe it is. And maybe you can close the deal at that point. If you've done your pre-closing and you've established your value, as I pointed out, then perhaps the number is sufficient. But what if it's not, right? And I know that that's the question on all your minds. What if it's not? This is the formula here. Take them back through the interview. Remind them the questions that they've asked you. Remind them the problems that they've pointed out that you're going to be solving. It sounds like you need me to come in and get this done and fix this problem and work with these folks. Sounds a bit challenging. Clearly, I'm up to the task. That's why we're here and we're negotiating an offer right now. I've done some different projections about the value of the product and service that we're delivering here. I've done some projections about the marketplace. And clearly, I can deliver on that value. Put some numbers in there. Name the value of it. You know, your product is selling to enterprise customers at $1 million a pop, right? I'm part of that. I may be 100, maybe 150 people that are a part of that sale, but I'm part of that, right? Clearly, I'm going to bring you some value in here. I believe that we can work on a number that's going to be closer to what I'm looking for and still meet your needs. Remind them that they selected you as the top candidate. Remind them that they're ready to close the deal, right? Sometimes we forget that, hiring managers, HR folks, and recruiters. Sometimes we think, well, there's another candidate that we could go to. And you need to remind them that you've invested a lot of time and a lot of work in interviewing me and getting to this point. I don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose that work. Let's get a deal together that works, right? So then, state your numbers. Ask for the specific number that you need on each element of the deal. Or name the one element of the offer that is still a bit painful to you. It may not necessarily be the base salary. Ask if they've got, because there are some parts of their offer that they cannot negotiate. For example, most companies kind of have a set number of weeks of vacation, and a lot of times they can't necessarily negotiate that. Some companies may have, a set matching dollar on 401k plan, or just a variety of different things like that they can't necessarily negotiate. Those are great things to grab and say, "Really, I really like what you're offering me on vacation days, and I really like what you're offering me on retirement matching. I really like the on-target earnings, but what's a little painful to me right now is the base salary offer, because I'm bringing to you X number of years experience, X value, the experience solving this problem, meeting this challenge, and I really feel like that X is the right base salary." And again, silence. Right? Because you'll be tempted, but I'm flexible. Don't want to lose the deal. Okay. It's okay to negotiate. And that was the question. What was it? Back in the back. It is okay to negotiate. Don't stop the conversation. Don't walk away until you've exhausted all of your resources in negotiating your deal. Keep working on getting a package that works for you. And at the end of the day, all of this negotiating may or may not get you a glorious offer, may or may not get you the best offer that you were looking for. And there may be a purpose for you. There may be something that you need to accomplish in this role with this company. So make some decisions. Can I work with this? Can I? Will this be an effective move for me? can I build on this opportunity if I take this role? Can I leverage this job into a promotion within a short amount of time? You've got to be confident in the answers to those questions, because they may say, you know, well, we'll do an evaluation in 6 months, and you may be able to move from project manager to senior project manager, you know, because you've got considerably more experience than most of the project managers that we've been hiring lately. And so you say, well, that's fantastic, but are you confident that that's really going to happen, that that's really possible? And so you may ask for some additional information like, is that normal? Do you normally do a 6-month review? Does everyone get a 6-month review? Has anyone gotten a 6-month review and been promoted from project manager to senior project manager? Has that happened in your company? Has it happened recently? So you can ask those kinds of questions to get yourself comfortable of whether or not that possibility is likely and whether or not the deal that they're putting in front of you is a good deal for you. Okay? So I want you to get the very best offer that you can possibly get. I want you to close on that deal. As a review, restate and clarify the current offer. Ask what else is included in the offer. Yeah, snap pictures. This is kind of the quick secret sign, the quick list here. Review the interview. Make sure that you've restated for them the value that you bring to the company, what you've identified through the interview process as the challenges that you'll overcome, how you stand apart as their top candidate, how you're ready to close the deal, they're ready to close the deal. Ask for whatever additional salary, bonus, or other benefits that you need, and stand by what you're asking for. And then at the end, get the offer in writing, right? Because all of the conversations that you're having mean nothing if they're not ready to put the offer in writing and get that sent to you. Now, so once they've said, sounds good, we'll go ahead and get this in writing, I typically don't want to let them off the phone until I've said, what kind of start date should we arrange? Because if I have an offer coming and a start date on the calendar, I feel much more confident that this deal is going to really close. Right? And so I want to get a start date put on the calendar. Then, after they've, and it depends on who I'm negotiating with. If I'm negotiating with the hiring manager, with my future boss, and the future boss says, well, I'd like to get you started on May 1st, and I say, fantastic, let's do that. I'm putting it on my calendar. Hiring manager says, I'm putting it on my calendar too. You're good to go. Recruiter or HR manager that you're talking to, and they say, well, we start everybody on a Monday here at the company and we do an orientation. You say, well, I can start on this Monday or that Monday, which is good for you. They say, well, we can do X Monday. So then the very next thing you do when you hang up the phone is email to your future boss and say, I look forward to starting with you on Monday, May X. I've just confirmed my offer with HR and I'm super excited. Hiring manager then takes your email and pops it on her calendar, and you're locked in. You're coming, right? And then the hiring manager will then call HR and say, hey, great, thanks for closing the deal with my candidate. I'm looking forward to them starting on May 5th. Guess what that then happens? They go ahead and get the offer letter written up, because they haven't even started it yet, because they got 30 other things that they need to do after they've hung up the phone with you. But because the hiring manager lit a fire under them, because they're anxious to get you started, HR will turn up the gas and get them going. HR typically responds to the hottest flame. Okay? So you can help turn that flame up. Okay, that was the review. Now let's see. I'm open to any questions. I mentioned the jobs that I'm recruiting on. That was one thing I wanted to mention. I was going to mention a couple of other things. There's another job club that meets on Thursdays, if anybody's looking for a Thursday job club, down in Southwest Austin. Southwest Austin. Anybody live south of the river, Southwest Austin? I'm glad you do, John, because the job I have for you is in Southwest Austin. Okay. All right. So it meets at Austin Ridge Bible Church. I think it's called ARBC. It's a brand new career networking group called Career Networking Group. So look that up. On Thursdays, I think it meets at 9:30, 8:30. Thank you. And then keep coming to Launchpad. Man, this is such a valuable resource that you have. Really, honestly, I worked for Lee Hecht Harrison in 2009-ish, and companies like Dell were paying us $1,500 a pop to provide a program like this that you're getting. So keep coming and keep utilizing this resource.
Thanks for rubbing that in here.
Yeah, that's why my book is only $15, because that boggled my mind that you know, 'cause most of the information, and I know you can do a Google search and you can look up most of the things that I might put in my book and they might put in their workshops. I know that, but you'd also spend about 8 hours or more surfing the web to try to pull all of the data together that I'm providing to you.
There are some new approaches that they give you lots of YouTube videos.
YouTube videos, oh, that's, yeah, that you could probably just go find on your own. Q&A. How much time do I have anyway? It's 11:40, 11:35. Okay, we got about 7 minutes for Q&A. Did you guys wear out all your questions already? Yes.
Yeah, so I understood, because I'm not American, so I understood that when you receive an offer, you always have to request for something additional, because the other party that the recruiter is going to offer.
They'll put it in writing anyway. It's standard that in the U.S. that they put the offer in writing.
Okay, so I should always ask for something. Even if it's not for me, I should always ask for something else before I
advocate that you ask for that offer letter. Yes.
No, she's asking, should you always negotiate? If the offer that they make you is a good offer. Oh. Is that what you're asking? Should you always ask?
That is a really good question, Kathy. Should you always negotiate? You don't necessarily always need to ask for more, but you do need to ask about the offer. Never just accept it on face value, because they can lay down an offer to you that sounds really great. Base salary of $80,000 is what we have in mind, and you say, $80,000 sounds pretty good. But what's your vacation plan? Do you do any matching on your retirement plan? What other benefits would I be expecting in the offer? What if they have no vacation, $80,000, but you're never going to get paid vacation, right? What if, right? So ask, but man, if after you've asked all of those questions and it's a great deal, take it. Please, get a job. We all want that. Come back here and say, I got a job. Okay, yes.
Clarify. Let's say the offer is in range, and for whatever reason you're really excited to take it. Is there always the assumption that you will counter on a salary dollar amount? Let's say it's 5 to 10%, but you always counter. Is that an expectation in the discussion?
It depends on your field. Okay, in my field, it is an expectation. My wife has a really tough time with that, because every time I get an offer, I counter the offer, because it's expected in my field, because that's what I do, right? Yes, in sales, you probably want to counter a little bit. You want to nudge around, negotiate a little bit, because that's what you do, right? So it depends a little bit. And it's never a bad thing to ask for a tweak to the offer. Never a bad thing. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Yes?
How do you handle when they finally get the number out of you that you want, that's on the front, and it ends up it's above their range? But you would accept something within their range, how do you backpedal that? I say I want $45 an hour, and they said, well, we can only pay up to 42, 40. But I take it.
Okay. If that happens all in one conversation, then you just close back with that, you know. Listen, I can work with your 40. Let's not let that bog us down. Let's move forward. And then you just want to get off that topic as quickly as possible. Take money off the table. Let's just put that off the table right now because I can work with 40. Let's keep the conversation going.
And what if they don't come back and that conversation later on? And you find out you're overpriced later.
Yeah, you know, Tom, I just have to say there are risks involved in this. If 45 is what you really need, and listen, folks, $45 an hour versus $40 an hour is a big difference, right? If 45 is really what you need, and that's your target, and if 45 is the number that you've calculated after you've given yourself your negotiating buffer, right? Then, you know, one, you can go back to them, recontact the individual, and say, sounds like I may have overshot the number a little bit. I just want you to know I've got a range. I can work with you if we can get the conversation started back up again. But the other thing is that, you know, at some point you've got to kind of stick with your target and say, this is what I need, and this is what I need to move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was going to say, just remember, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, so sometimes these little things are telltale of what life might be like working in pharmacy. You might not want to work for them anyway. You know?
Good point. Yes, Dr.
What if they say, I'm carving out a specific position to fit this need?
Great. Yes.
And they throw out a number out there.
Uh-huh.
And they continually say, I'm carving this out, gotta sell this up and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the negotiation in that regard? Because it's a new position, no one's been in it.
Yeah, well, this is going to be about the problems you're going to solve and the value that you bring to the company. As much as it is, you know, this is a brand new position. We haven't ever filled this before. Fantastic, huh? Great, let me help you craft that. This is what that's worth. Right? Does that help a little bit? We can talk more after if you want to. Okay. I'm working my way this way for you guys.
If you're applying online and it asks for a specific number, not even a range where you can't write negotiable, and it's got the star, so you have to put something in there. Which number on your table, given your table and your formula that you have,
Yes.
where on that, what number would you put in there? I mean, would you shoot for the moon, put the highest one?
Actually, no. Because here's the thing, that's not a contract. Okay? They can't necessarily hold you to that. I've had candidates put $1 in that field before.
That doesn't work.
I know, because they've got AI built into the software now, right? So you put a reasonable number, but put something that's a little on the lower side so that you don't get eliminated just because that's what's in the database, right? And if they bring that up later, then you just tell them honestly, I did not want to get eliminated because of a number I put in your database. This is my target salary range. Okay, yes.
I use that. I was being interviewed by a hiring director at Dell. And when I had to finally go do the application, I put in the number 1. Because, I mean, it's hard to backtrack from some other number. 1 is a meaningless number, but it clicks to the next step. So 1 is the way to go. I mean, I got hired.
If it works, I would try that first. just because they're crazy for even keeping that kind of a field in their applicant tracking system. I'm working my way this way.
So that just happened to me. I put my number in, and then they came back and I said, they threw the geography in.
Geography.
And I said, wait a second, that number, I just put that in the system, and, you know, I still want to, and now you're telling me geography is an issue, and so.
So your number was too high?
And honestly, it's not even enough for me. So I'm like,
It's not a company.
I'm a salesperson,
It's
like
not-
it's never gonna be enough, so. So they said, well, we'll have to look at, you know, geography. And then I'm like, okay, so I gotta keep interviewing, but.
Yeah.
How do you get around geography?
No, your research is your research. This is what these jobs get paid in this location, in this region. I've done my research, and I'll stand by that. You know, and if they're way off on that, then you're never going to put a deal together with that company. Move on. Question?
Would it be okay to just say, I did not want to get kicked out of your system?
Yes. Yeah, that's what we were saying here. Yeah.
So this is the number that I put in, because I've also heard, as I said, where they were saying the $1 and so many of those are now being kicked out of the system altogether, so they won't look at your resume.
Yeah, that's why I say put a number in there that sounds reasonable but won't get you eliminated. Because it's irrelevant. That's not what you're going to negotiate. Yes. Okay. Oh, more questions? Okay, we're at 11:45.
questions and we're done.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Real quick, back in startup.com days, it seemed really prevalent to negotiate exit packages. I haven't done that in a while myself because my last job I didn't do that. And I should have. I was just like super stoked to get the job and move to the next path.
Yeah.
What's kind of your point of view of that in today's world?
I don't have time to go into that now. We're going to need to talk about that offline. That's a whole other presentation, as you know from experience. Negotiating an exit package. That's a big topic. Do it.
Okay.
Yeah. If that's the only yes or no, yes. Do it. Yes.
It was back to the ATS system of the office, but the ATS systems don't, they can't ask you your age. A lot of them are starting to require you to put your college graduation date out.
Right, because the date of your college graduation is that they use that to verify when they contact your university to verify your diploma.
Right, but it also, for a lot of people, they can't.
Well, depends on whether you were a traditional student or a non-traditional student. So in HR, we've learned that that's really irrelevant. You could have gone to school at any point in your life and finished that degree. So I train my recruiters to really disregard that. We don't even really look at that data. Honestly, folks, we don't look at all the ATS data. We don't look at all that applicant data. We look at your resume. We look at your experience. Have you done this job? Do you have the skills that are required? I'm getting you on the phone. I'm not looking at, did you check a certain box or fill in a certain field, right? If you got through the system and your application is on my desk, I'm looking at your resume.